Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Well, welcome back to a very special edition of Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life, on the battle of ideas over whether there really is such thing as a right to life. There's a spiritual battle of ideas, and our goal is to equip you to understand and to win that battle. Have you ever heard of the phrase ephemera? It's a word that comes to us from Greek, and it means something that is very short-lived. Many insects have an ephemeral lifespan. They literally hatch, they live for a day or two. Most of them are eaten by other fish or animals, and they die. They seem to be very short-lived. Do you know that the word news, when you listen to the news, you're actually listening to ephemeral information? And it's strange, but our culture is driven by this need for the ephemeral. What's new? What's going on? I want to know what's new. Here at Life Matters, we don't focus actually on the ephemeral. Our goal is to actually equip you with a substantive understanding of principles so that you will understand new things. You'll be able to judge them. You'll be able to apply principles to them. Some folks simply repeat what's ephemeral. This happened today. That happened today. This is going to happen tomorrow. What's important is that you understand the undergirding principles of what's going on. So we tend to avoid the ephemeral. We tend to avoid that which is short-lived unless we can equip you to understand deeper issues through it. And this is one of those programs. We're going to talk today a special election edition of Life Matters because the news of this day and the next few weeks now is information you can apply, and it's going to change history. You know, there's a saying, and the saying is there's three kinds of people. People who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who say, what happened? Most of us will tend to fall into that last category. So we go to the news. What happened today? But the goal of Life Matters is to equip you to understand the very real battle in which our culture is involved, to equip you to make things happen. That's the goal of America, is to establish laws by which every individual was protected. Every individual life is honored. It's a self-evident truth that all of us are created equal, endowed by our Creator with this right to life. The government didn't give it to us. Government has a job, and that's to protect vulnerable lives. We're now in an election, so we're going to spend time in this particular program to talk about this moment in history and what you can do to really affect change right where you are. In this program, we're going to focus again, as we have in the past few programs, on understanding elections as your local responsibility. All of us, hopefully, are going to vote for the presidential race, and our votes are important, but they're a drop in the ocean. As you go down the ballot, the more local your ballot, the more powerful your vote. And that's why in the last few programs, we've been driving you to the website of California Pro-Life, californiaprolife.org, because there we've listed for many counties. We have listed not just the congressional, not just the state assembly and senate, but all the way down the ballot, most importantly, school board members. Planned Parenthood wants to take over your schools, and we want to equip you to stop them locally. It's only when you elect someone at election time to say no to Planned Parenthood you can stop them. In December, after the election, Planned Parenthood gets a school-based clinic proposal to a school board and it passes. All you can do is complain for 4 years. That's all you can do. You have simply watched things go by, or maybe you'll find out later what happened. So this is an important program. We're going to spend a lot of time focusing on it. And we're going to hear from folks throughout the state, and we're going to talk about what you can do wherever you are in the state of California. I do want to remind you we are heard outside of the state. And we're heard also in Europe through European Gospel Radio. We're heard once a week on European Gospel Radio, and some of you are listening right now. We're heard on various stations through the Salem Broadcasting System, KTKZ in Sacramento, KTRB in the greater Sacramento area, KFAX in the San Francisco area, KERI in Bakersfield, KGBA in Imperial Valley, KKLA in Los Angeles area, and several other stations from time to time. Most importantly, you can listen to us via podcast. And I want to remind you that if you can't tune in at a particular time, and that's the problem with listening, with the radio, it reaches a lot of people, but you have to tune into that station at that time. With the podcast, we designed Life Matters to focus on particular themes, and you can go to our podcast page, that's lifematters.life, and subscribe, and you'll get updates that are applicable. Again, we focus not on the ephemeral passing news of the day, but on evergreen important issues that matter, issues that equip you to make a difference. I just want to introduce quickly someone who sent us a note, Mike Garcia. He is a gentleman who lives in Temecula, California, and he sent a very kind note. Mike is a listener. You can send a note as well. If you go to lifematters.life, you can scroll to the bottom of the page and you can send a note from wherever you listen. Tell us where you are and feel free to ask a question or make a point. But I'd like you to hear from Mike Garcia, a very kind comment.
Hey, Brian. This is Mike Garcia. I've been listening to your podcast, and I've been really blessed by it. I love listening to you speak and just sharing all the wonderful information on right to life and politics and just rational thought. So thank you. Keep up the good work. God bless you.
Well, those are very kind words from Mike Garcia, and he gets it. We're here to equip you with the deeper issues so that you can be one of those who makes a difference. As I say, the old saying is there's three types of people: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who say, what happened? So we're here to equip you to make that difference. And Mike, thank you for listening. And if you're listening by podcast, feel free to send us a note. If you're listening by radio, go to californiaprolife.org or go to lifematters.life, and you can send us a note there. We're going to come back in just a second. We're going to talk again about this year's ballot and what you can do about it. We're going to be joined by Sheila Green, who is the Central Vice President for the California Pro-Life Council. She's an attorney. She's going to go into depth once again on one of the important ballot measures, but there are several important ballot measures that every Californian will be voting on, and we've covered those before. You can go back and listen to episode 227 of Life Matters, where we explore those ballot measures. But she's going to join us in a second to talk about Proposition 14 in depth. And then we're going to talk about the many candidates that you can help. So we will be right back right after this.
Life Matters continues after this.
Well, now we have a special opportunity for Life Matters listeners wherever you are. You can be on the air. That's right. If you have a question for Life Matters, we have a special way for you to ask that question. Tell us where you're listening from, speak slowly and clearly, and you can record a message. Go to lifematters.life. That's lifematters.life. Scroll to the bottom of the page, and there you'll see Send a Message to Brian Johnston. Using your computer's microphone, you can record a message, and it'll record clearly. You can't go longer than 90 seconds, but please feel free if you have a question or a comment. Make sure you keep it polite. We do have to edit, and we can't put impolite stuff on the air, but we do want to hear from you. That's lifematters.life. Scroll to the bottom of the page and give us your thoughts.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. As I said, we're going to be joined now by Sheila Green, and she's going to explain in depth Proposition 14. Well, we're back. We're with Sheila Green. She is California Pro-Life Central Vice President, and she's an attorney at law. Sheila is going to tell us about Proposition 14. It's very important that you understand just how evil this is. Sheila, tell us about Prop 14.
Sure. Thank you, Brian. So Proposition 14 is a ballot proposition that creates $5.5 billion in general obligation bonds to continue the funding of stem cell research. And the Pro-Life Council is urging people to vote no. There's a life concern, but there are also other concerns. First, let me discuss the life concern. As I mentioned, it's stem cell research, and a portion of this research is done on embryos. It involves cloning. So the researchers create a human being by cloning, and then they kill him or her in order to harvest the stem cells from that human being. So this is essentially experimentation on human beings and involves the killing of those human beings. So this is something we strongly oppose because it violates the sanctity of life. We've crossed a line and we need to go back. We need to not do this because there are other methods of getting stem cells as well. You can get stem cells from adults that don't involve killing people. So we oppose the entire bond measure because of the portion of it that funds embryonic stem cell research. But there are other reasons to oppose it. Just by way of background, the bond measure that passed in, I believe it was 2004, that started this whole stem cell funding, created an entity called the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, which I will refer to as CIRM. CIRM oversees the granting of funds to researchers. Now, one of the board members of CIRM, by the name of Jeff Sheehy, has come out as a whistleblower. He is opposed to Prop 14. And he wrote a very insightful article in the San Diego Union Tribune in September and explained his reasons. And I'm only going to outline some of his reasons because there were more. His reasons for opposing Prop 14. And this is the biggest one for me. The first one is that it has actually failed on its promises of miracle cures. If you read the voter information pamphlet, they claim all sorts of wonderful things has resulted, and he says it's not true. In particular, the voter information pamphlet mentions 2 FDA-approved treatments that resulted from the funding. And Mr. Sheehy has said that the CIRM funding played no substantial role in the development of those treatments. And the reason he knows this is because by law, if it had played a substantial role, the CIRM funding, in the development of those treatments, there would have had to have been royalties paid back to CIRM as a result of, the money that was made from those treatments. And he says in September of 2020, he said that to that date, no royalties had been returned to CIRM. So yes, 2 FDA-approved treatments happened, but CIRM was not a substantial portion of those cures. And I know that there's some ads going around, a woman talking about how she was cured, and I believe it says, I think she had leukemia, I'm not quite sure, but it says that she had received a treatment, but CIRM did not play a substantial role in the development of that treatment. It's very possible she doesn't even know that. So that's the first issue. So another indication that the stem cell funding has not resulted in miracle cures is that if it had, CIRM is supposed to return money from royalties back to the state. The royalties coming from the miracle cures. So in 2004, they said that they would anticipate the state would receive up to $1.1 billion with a B, $billion in returns as a result of the cures coming from this research. To date, CIRM has returned 350,000. So expected 1.1 billion with a B, only actually returned to 350,000. So really very little medical science has been advanced, it would seem, as a result of the money that's already been given to CIRM in the previous ballot measure. Another category of concerns are conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, Mr. Sheehy is a board member, so he knows who's on the board. As it turns out, a majority of the board members of CIRM represent institutions that have actually received most of the grant money. So one hand is washing the other. So 2.1 out of $2.7 billion given out by CIRM in the last 15 years has gone to institutions like Stanford and the UC system that have people on the CIRM board. So this is a conflict of interest, and it's one that's widely been criticized. Proposition 14 does not fix this conflict of interest. In fact, it adds more board members from these same institutions, so it exacerbates the conflict of interest. Finally, there are financial concerns. The chair of the board overseeing CERM earns over $400,000 a year. Mm-hmm. That's more than the governor, and I believe more than the president. Chair of the board of CERM earns more than the president. Mm-hmm. We're in a financial crunch right now. California does not have the money. This is a general obligation bond that adds to the state debt. And general obligation bonds have to be paid before services like education and healthcare are funded. So that means that these other areas of state funding will suffer as a result of Prop 14.
Yeah.
And finally, stem cell research is already well funded. It gets $2.1 billion in federal and $10 billion in private funding. So the additional money for this is simply not necessary. So those are the reasons Mr. Sheehy has for opposing giving more money to his own agency that he sits on the board of. Yeah. He feels that it's wasteful and it's not helpful in terms of medical research, and it's just a waste of money.
Yes. Well, that's an excellent analysis. Many people are receiving. I received on my phone a text promoting this and promoting the ostensible cure the young woman had. As we have said, they're claiming a lot of cures that may have come from other stem cell research, but not necessarily what they contributed to. It's unconscionable. Mr. Klein is a multi-millionaire, perhaps billionaire land developer in Southern California. He has used this money to also get more land and property for CERM, which he runs. And he's funding, when you look at the details, he personally is funding this campaign. But remember, he's getting the money from the state. Initially, they had $3.3 billion in 2004 after interest. It was $6 billion. Now they're asking for $5.5 billion, and there'll be interest added to that. But this has gone really to his own little empire. It's not controlled and cannot be controlled by the state government. It changes the state constitution. You just heard from Sheila, point by point, the very deep flaws in Proposition 14. If you have any other questions on this or the other propositions that California Pro-Life has taken a stand on, there are 6 of them that clearly impact the life issue. Go to californiaprolife.org. Sheila, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
Life Matters continues after this.
Are you willing to step up to be a lifeguard? We're asking you to consider becoming a Life Matters lifeguard. On Life Matters, we cut to the depths of this cultural battle of ideas that has robbed America of its core values and robbed the innocent of their right to life. Anything you can pledge is appreciated. But if you pledge $19 a month, we will make you part of the Life Matters lifeguard team, getting you the important tools and dynamic information to help save lives and encourage others in understanding the lurking dangers in today's deadly cross currents of culture. Your pledge helps us with our costs of broadcast. It keeps the full understanding of the right to life going out over our numerous radio stations and also facilitates the important podcast that carries even more programming. Please go to the front page of the Life Matters website and click on the donate button. Your donation is deeply appreciated.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Well, we appreciate that from Sheila. The fact is that you need to understand in depth the issues that you face, and that's really what we do here at Life Matters, is we want to equip you with understanding rather than just say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, 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 as most of the ballot propositions really do require a no once you understand them. But we want you to understand them. And the fact is once you have that understanding, it'll help you in the other issues of life. We're going to talk about candidates right now. You have local candidates, and I want to ask you again, go to californiaprolife.org, go to Elections 2020. You'll see the list of the ballot propositions. You're also going to see the list of federal and state endorsements throughout the state. You can go there. There are some very good candidates there. We've encouraged you to look first to your local candidates. As you go down on californiaprolife.org, we also have county lists. Click on that list, and it goes even further. County and city offices down to school board level. Make sure you know the ballot. But right now, there's special races that are of great impact. So know first your local candidates. And then there's some that are going to need help that are very, very important. I'm going to mention now the federal candidates that need help. This portion of the program our federal PAC is paying for. So I'll tell you about these important congressional candidates. Go to their website, see how you can help them. These are some of the closer races. District 7 for Congress is Buzz Patterson. That's the southern part of Sacramento County. But go further down, and in the Central Valley, in the Modesto area, is Ted Howes for Congress. That's Congress 10. Ted Howes, a very close race, and Ted could use your help. Go to his website, Ted Howes for Congress. Make sure you help Ted in any way that you can, if you're anywhere in the Central Valley. Further down, District 21, David Valadeo, is the former congressman. He's under heavy assault, but that's a district we can take back. Many of you know the name of Devin Nunes, and the left wants to take out Devin Nunes. These are all pro-life candidates for Congress. They need your help. And if you've already taken care of your local candidates, see how you can help. That's District 22, Devin Nunes. As we go farther through the state, District 25 is Mike Garcia. He won in a special election. He's a great guy. By the way, this candidate, Mike Garcia, is a different person than the Mike Garcia from Temecula that called us earlier. If you're anywhere in that portion of Los Angeles County, that's northern Los Angeles County, help Mike, but you can help from afar. If you go to his website, Mike Garcia 25, other very competitive districts throughout the state. If we take back these key seats in Congress, we can actually get rid, even though she'll still be in Congress for San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi, we want to give Kevin McCarthy. He, by the way, represents Bakersfield in District 23. We'd like him to be Speaker, and the way to do that is to replace some of the members of Congress with good pro-life members. Some of these are very close. Farther down the state, in the eastern part of LA County and northern Orange County is Young Kim. District 39 is Young Kim. Go to her website, see how you can help her. Farther down, very important race, Greg Raths, District 45. I've met Greg. He's a former pilot with the Marines. He's a heroic gentleman, very, very pro-life. That's District 45, Greg Raths. Go to his website, see how you can help him. Then Michelle Steele in District 48. Going farther down the state, at the very bottom of the state in District 50 is Darrell Issa. Many of you remember his name. You can help him, but right next to that, really overlaying that, there's a key supervisorial race, and that is Joel Anderson for San Diego District 2. So that's a local race in San Diego. You can help all of these folks if you go to their websites. You can see the list of all of the pro-life candidates in the state at californiaprolife.org. That's californiaprolife.org. Now, I'm going to come back after a bit. You can actually be helping across the nation. We have these opportunities. The National Right to Life Committee has the opportunity for you to help get out the pro-life vote in some of the key battleground states for the president. We have always known how important the presidential race is, but we've wanted you to understand your local vote first, the vote that you cast, that the friends from your church cast, that your family cast. Very, very powerful. But you and I know how important this presidential race is. I believe it's pivotal for the future of our nation. And National Right to Life has a program where you can help get pro-life voters in these other states. So when you call them, there's various get out the vote phone calling programs. But on this particular program, you'll be calling pro-life voters and urging them to vote pro-life. And it's a much easier type of phone call to make. If you would like to call us at California Pro-Life, we can plug you into that project now in these last 2 weeks. That phone number is 1-800-924-2490. That's 800-924-2490. And leave the message that you want to help get out the vote in the key battleground states. You want to get other pro-lifers to vote for the president in key battleground states, and we'll plug you into that particular project. Let me tell you quickly a couple of the assembly races that are very exciting. In the northern part of the state, Jim Gallagher has been challenging our governor, and he needs your support. So that's Jim Gallagher and Kevin Kiley in the greater Sacramento area. So make sure you step up for those guys. They're taking on the governor and his draconian power play. So go to those websites, District 3, Jim Gallagher, and District 6, Assembly 6 for Kevin Kiley. Kathy Cook in the Sacramento area for Assembly District 8. Kathy is a great woman. She also was one of the first women military pilots to go into combat. Very brave woman, and she'll make a great assemblywoman. That's in Sacramento District 8. Some of these other close races, Eric Regard is also in Sacramento. And down the ballot, some of the other folks you should be aware of is District 38 down in almost Southern California in the high desert area. Suzette Martinez Valladares, great pro-life lady, and that's Assembly District 38. And a couple others, Burton Brink, Assembly District 49. 55, Dr. Philip Chen. These are great pro-life candidates. They do need your help. Once you've taken care of your local race, see how you can help out these folks. In San Diego, a good friend of life is John Moore, Assembly District 79. And then also a longtime friend of life on the Senate side is John Morlock in Orange County. He needs your help. John Morlock in Orange County. Melissa Melendez just won a special election in Riverside County. That's District 28. And at the very bottom of the state, San Diego, Linda Blankenship. Linda has been a longtime pro-life hero in Senate District 39. Finally, I want to let you know of a special project as the election wraps up. As the election wraps up, we have to be sure that the votes are properly counted. Those of you who remember and lived through the Gore versus Bush hassle in Florida know that the counting of ballots is very, very important. And because of the number of ballots being cast by mail now, it's important that there be election integrity. So I'm going to recommend to you, and there's training available, you go in locally at your county, the Election Integrity Project for California. So that's at EIPCA.com. Election Integrity Project. We'll talk about it again next week. But election integrity, once we've cast our votes in all of these races, our job still isn't finished. There's a need for volunteers. Look at these votes, make sure that they're honestly counted, and volunteers will be needed. That's the Election Integrity Project. This has been an extraordinary election. It's the longest slow-motion election I've ever been through. So we want to make sure that you're equipped, and we want to make sure that the right things are done. Thanks for listening to Life Matters. And again, go to californiaprolife.org. You can help us out. Help us keep this show on the radio and help us make sure that California is standing for life.
Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life.